Alright everyone, back again. I'm doing something real strange here. I'm going to be doing something otherwise, but I'm going to have my phone running, playing a video, and then recording the audio, and I'll see when I come out and whatnot, but at least I can get some content out to you guys. This is going to be the A Call for an Uprising channel, A Time for Judgment, A Time for Justice. It's all the same guy. Just putting a playlist on, see how long it runs. I might come out and check it throughout the time. It might shut off, I don't know, but here's a start to it. So thank you guys for checking it out, regardless. A lot of really good information about survival and just stuff around you, like how things actually work. Alright guys, have a good day. Love you, bye.
Feels so terribly off, then you have come to the right place. A veil has been put over the eyes of humanity. Evil people in high places have been hiding the truth in plain sight and building a false reality on lies and deception for far too long. And now, their time is coming to an end. It's time to fight back, to wake up, and to begin an uprising. Now is a time for judgment.
This is a time for judgment. Welcome to today's show. This is what's really great about the website, atimeforjudgment.com, or it goes by another name, acallforunuprising.com. People share a lot of great information, and a lot of the times it just ends up working out where I'm working on something, and then it really kind of ties in. So I could use that information and share it in my videos so that other people can see it. So I want to thank the people on the website. This specific story comes from Esther John, who shared somebody's video from the YouTube channel, The Controversy 7, who put together a nice video, and I want to use this clip because it ties in perfectly with what I was going to cover about this article in regards to climate crisis, and 1/3 of the food that we eat is at risk because the climate crisis is endangering butterflies and bees, which I'll get to after the fact. But this video talks about a few of our friends from the World Economic Forum and other engineers who talk about how we need to human engineer people and control their taste buds so that they like to eat different things. Now that's weird, right? Since we see them engineering us into wanting to eat bugs. They use the celebrities, right? That's their influencers to influence the masses, that we should eat bugs more. That's why all these shows have incorporated eating bugs, and taking that taboo, that desensitizing people from eating bugs, making it normal. The more they see these celebrities eat bugs, the more celebrities like Justin Timberlake, etc., come out and say, yeah, we eat bugs for dinner. The more normal it becomes, then people will be like, oh yeah, I'll eat a caterpillar, instead of being like, oh, I wouldn't eat that. What are you, sick? Are you gross? And this is part of what they want to do. Now, the Bible talks about in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3, they will prohibit marriage and require abstinence from certain foods that God has created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. And a lot of foods will be forbidden, and we're seeing that as part of the climate change agenda. We're also going to see a massive push towards cannibalism, which I've talked about. But let's take a listen from the video again, which is by the channel The Controversy 7. The video is called Huge Diabolical Plan to Change People's Taste Buds, where you have Klaus Schwab and company talking about how if people aren't going to just stop eating meat, well, we're going to use human engineering to get them to stop.
I mean, you are really changing human beings.
I'm talking about being able to remove certain genes or mutations from the entire, human species. I think a challenge is to figure out, how do we do that globally? How do we do that ethically? How do we do that fairly?
You could change genes to influence our brains and our behavior. Is that correct or not?
Only if I knew which genes to change.
It's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. It's brain research, nanotechnology, and I could go on and on. It's changing not only what we are doing, it's changing who we are.
People eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption of meat, then it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. We can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat. We can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat.
Oh, wow. Well, it's no surprise, because what techniques are they using to do human engineering? Well, for starters, they're using mind control, the easiest one for them to use, because all they need to do is continually use repetition and just keep putting it in a pattern over and over and over again to convince people what's right from wrong, which is really an inversion because good is now evil and evil is now good. This is all done through mind control. But another way they're going to do it is through being able to edit, doing gene editing, changing who humans are and what humans are. I wonder how they're going to do that. Wink, wink. Can't go into further detail here, but obviously on the website we talk more about that over there. We hear Klaus Schwab talk about it. It's not just going to change, the things you like. It's going to change you because literally gene editing is going to change you. And through gene editing, they're going to be able to control what you eat and what you don't eat, what your taste buds like and don't like. So suddenly things that are normal foods and healthy for you, like broccoli or watermelon, are going to be considered bad. Not only are they going to be considered bad, your taste buds are going to tell you they taste gross, but your taste buds are going to tell you that bugs that are covered in parasites, like worms and spiders, taste good, right? And that's what is going on here. It's pure insanity. You could pretty much, like I said recently in a video, tie anything you want into climate change and these suckers will believe it. It's really amazing. Like, you could tell them anything. Anything. I mean, what's next? Erectile dysfunction tied into climate change? I wouldn't be surprised. I recently discovered they're blaming, people being sick now in climate. Like, oh, people are sicker for longer periods of time thanks to climate change. Are people getting more and more sick? Like, what? I mean, what else are they going to come up with? Well, the answer is whatever they want, because the simple fact is the mind control is working. And we see these suckers continually believe it. So one of the things obviously is bugs, like I've shown over and over, and we've all seen it. I mean, everybody out there who's even, people who are asleep are still seeing it. And they're like, why are they constantly telling me I'm going to eat bugs? Right? Why is like Angelina Jolie eating like tarantulas? Why are they telling me I should drink cockroach milk, which I showed last week? Why are they making like these beyond plant-based burgers and stuff when we still have meat and we could eat meat? Well, the meat, first they tell you that meat's bad for you. Then that didn't work, right? When they said eating cows are really bad for you. So then it turned into, oh, well, it's not that eating cows are bad. Cows are bad because their farts are killing off, too much carbon. So we should just kill all the cattle, kill our food supply chain because the climate's more important than our food supply chain, apparently. Just like it's unbelievable what these people fall for. And of course, on top of all that, cannibalism will be pushed. And it is being pushed because every day I see something in the news about cannibalism. This is some guy named Army Hammer. I mean, you can't make the name up, like Arm & Hammer. I mean, I don't know who this actor is. Nobody apparently does. But he says he's 100% a cannibal in this new documentary. Apparently this guy's an actor that no one's ever heard of or ever seen a movie or anything that he's in. But he says that he's 100% a cannibal. Well, what a surprise, since all these people in Hollywood are, and they're going to normalize that stuff. Now, how do they do it? Well, just like you heard that guy say, they'll use human engineering. They'll use mind manipulation, do gene editing, do all these things to control people's taste buds, and they'll tell you that eating humans is healthy for you, so you should try it. Then they'll tell you things like this, that 1/3 of the food that we eat is at risk because the climate crisis is endangering butterflies and bees. Oh my goodness. Well, we don't want to endanger the butterfly, the monarch butterfly, do we? I mean, we might as well burn all our crops if we're going to endanger the butterfly. Don't worry about the human species. Don't worry about us. We don't need food or water. We'll get rid of all the food that we have. We'll light it all on fire because it's getting too hot out, right? So we'll get rid of all the food that we have. Then we'll realize that we have no food and we'll die of starvation. That seems to work. Huh?
Goodbye waiting. Hello money. Get up to $4,000 instantly with a refund advance from TurboTax. There are no loan fees, no impact to your credit, and 0% APR. Yes, really. And it's available in as little as 1 minute from IRS acceptance. Terms apply. Don't wait. Get your refund advance with TurboTax.
I've done everything I can. This is your fight now.
rid of all the food that we have. Then we'll realize that we have no food and we'll die of starvation. That seems to work. Huh? This article says bee populations are declining. More than half of the bat species in the United States are in severe decline or listed as endangered. And international scientists recently announced the monarch butterfly is close to extinction. So I wasn't even kidding. I didn't even realize that they were talking about the monarch butterfly. But of course they would be, because this entire thing is a method of mind control. So why not use the monarch butterfly, which symbolizes that, as the butterfly, right? Oh my goodness. What these three creatures have in common is that they are all pollinators. Without them, fruits, vegetables, and other plants wouldn't be pollinated. That's a major problem for our food supply. 1 out of every 3 bites of food that we eat is directly connected to a pollinator. Ron Miguel, the communications director and a wildlife expert at the Zoo of Miami, told CNN around 30% of the food that ends up on our tables gets there because of things like butterflies, bees, and bats. I didn't know bats had such a role. Is this new? Apparently. Bats just seem to be popping up all over the place, culprits of things going on. Losing those critical populations could also mean losing some of our favorite foods. Apples, melons, cranberries, pumpkins, squash, broccoli, and almonds are among the foods most susceptible to the pollinator decline, according to the FDA. Bees in particular are responsible for pollinating around 90 commercially produced crops, the agency reports. Even tequila is at risk, they say. It's also connected. Whether you're eating the food that is directly pollinated or you're eating something that depends on that pollinator, it's a domino effect. So in other words, if you're eating fried chicken or pork chips, those chickens and pigs eat fruit, vegetables, and other plants that depend on pollinators. Thus, we aren't going to have chicken either, or pork chops, or bacon, just name it. Then it says the climate crisis has taken a toll on pollinators. So a more intense and prolonged drought is the most obvious impact. A growing concern is the effect of extreme heat, particularly on butterflies. Wow, I wonder if they could do something about that. Oh, right, they can, but they won't, because they're the ones causing all this through weather manipulation. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. There's a solution here to the issue about the bees and the butterflies and the fact that we can't eat watermelons and chicken. Oh, don't worry about it. There's plenty of bugs and there's plenty of humans to eat. So we shouldn't worry. Let's continue going forward with the climate initiative. And this is saying, look, that this is happening from the climate, but in reality, they're the ones who are causing the droughts. They're the ones who are causing the famine. They're the ones who are causing all the farmers to burn their crops. They're the ones who conveniently are torching all the manufacturing plants. They're the ones who are conveniently throwing baby formula in garbage cans. If you haven't seen that, I'll probably cover it on the website. I mean, these are all the things that they're doing, but they tell us that it's all from the climate. So we'll prepare, as they're doing through human engineering. They're constantly showing us all of these things of alternative foods, not just their Soylent Green burgers and things like that, but also through bugs, and also, like your mother or father or brother or sister, somebody passes away. Might as well eat them, right? I mean, it's expensive to have a funeral, right? They'll tell us. I mean, you can see where this is going, and people are like, it's never going to go there. They tell me that all the time. Where we are now, with people cutting off their willies, and saying that years ago, people were like, that is never going to be normal. Not only normalized, taught in schools. Yeah. Insanity continues to reign here in America. So if you label it with climate change, don't worry about it. It means that it's not real. I mean, it means that it's real, and it's something from the climate. So we should all just starve. We shouldn't eat. We shouldn't drink water. Because, our great-great-grandchildren, who would never be born, because none of us are going to be able to procreate from all the stuff they're doing to everybody anyway. On top of that, nobody's going to be able to procreate because everybody's just going to be dying from starvation. But we're not going to worry about that. The least of our concern is food and water. The only thing that we need to survive, air, food, water, right? Why worry about those? Let's just worry about these other things so that we could end up with no food because we've torched it all and we've thrown it all away, and et cetera, et cetera. Then we can look around and go, where's the food shortage? But thankfully there's insects and there's our Soylent product, which is really people. How convenient. So human engineering is the name of the game. The methods that they use, gene editing, mind control, that's what's going on right now. And your taste buds might change. Yeah. This is sick. It's only going to get worse, ladies and gentlemen. This is what Satan is doing to our world. This is what his minions are doing. This is the bidding they're doing for him. Don't think that they're going to live like this, because they're not. This is for us, the goyim, the cattle. This is how they envision our lives. And this is what they're going to do. They're going to continue to use these methods of sick, warped mind control to get us there. And then again, this was shared on the website. I hope everybody check out the website, timeforjudgment.com. A lot of great stuff. You can share so much stuff. We share anything over there. And, obviously I could see it, and then I could cover it if it's something. A lot of the times it ties into something that I am covering, so it works really well. And, you can share other channels and things like that, interact with each other. I mean, it's constantly active 24 hours a day. You go on at 2 in the morning if you can't sleep and you want to read some stuff. So definitely check it out. It's the price of a bottle of water, a cup of coffee a month. It's 10 cents a day. Check it out. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you and your families.
Open your eyes.
If you are wondering why everything going on in the world feels so terribly off, then you have come to the right place. A veil has been put over the eyes of humanity. Evil people in high places have been hiding the truth in plain sight and building a false reality on lies and deception for far too long. And now, their time is coming to an end. It's time to fight back, to wake up, and to begin an uprising. Now is a time for judgment.
This is a time for judgment. I welcome you to today's show. Ricky Martin isn't just living La Vida Loca, he's living La Vida Satan. Because Ricky Martin, of course, if people didn't know, is just another one of these satanic, demonic things walking amongst us who become famous, rich, and powerful. Well, somewhat powerful. I don't know if we'd say Ricky Martin has much push. But in this society, they become influencers on the masses. These influencers then start pushing satanic dogma or satanic, lifestyles onto the people, and then they start doing those things. So Ricky Martin has been accused of having a relationship with his nephew. Now, if you don't know Ricky Martin's in the occult, well, here's just a few photos for you if you didn't know. I guess Ricky loves showing his one-eye symbolism too. Add him to the montage of the thousands of celebrities that do this, yet we never get an explanation really on why they all do it. None of them come out and say, well, the photographer asked me to do it, so I did. Oh, and why did he ask Bono to do it? And Lady Barfbag and Britney Spears. Can you continue? No, what? Then they deflect, kind of like we see people in Congress deflect when, we hear about what a man can a man have a baby? The same type of nonsense, which the woke movement, they don't answer anything. They just cry like little babies. And of course, when crap hits the fan, they're going to be run over. So that'll be a nice day. But anyway, Ricky Martin's been accused by his nephew of having a relationship like this. Now, I've talked about how the occult doctrines are all going to be normal in our society. We've talked about children. I've talked a lot about, how they're going to normalize that with kids. And another thing they're going to normalize is in ... sexual ... relations. Because the Bible forbids that. The Bible forbids incestual relations. It's very, very thorough in the Bible about incest. So, what do we know the occult does? The occult reads the Bible, and every every commandment, every law that God issues, they do the opposite. This is part of being indoctrinated in Satanism. This is part of how they work. They do the opposite. They have to break the 10 commandments in their satanic baptism to become members of these secret societies. Yes, and that includes, murder. Okay? And yes, they could do, an abort type of thing for that, because that does qualify. But they have to do that, and they want to normalize all these things. So all this debauchery you see going on with, who's wearing, men wearing women's clothes, men cutting off their crotches, just really sick, insane stuff that you would all pretty much say it should be institutionalized for. They normalize it. And so this is one of the things that will become normalized. Now, I'm not saying that this story ties in with normalizing it, but I did say in a video that I did on the website, where I was talking about the show Mama's Boy, and how they were hinting at this type of stuff. As I was actually looking at some of these other things on television as far as behavioral patterns and what they're trying to say, because there's an agenda behind everything. And TLC is a channel that has a lot of these bizarre shows where people are dating, having sexual relations with their automobiles, and promoting adult babies, like grown men who dress up in diapers I mean, and live as babies. And of course, they don't have to have jobs because it's funded by our taxes, because this is what the liberal world order looks like, which I'll get into in more detail. But one of the things you have to remember, I'm going to get into, is with incestual behavior. That's what this is about, that Steph shared. And again, definitely join the website if you haven't, so you can share stuff like this with me, so I could do videos on it and cover it, or just to help other people see what's actually going on. Because you have to remember, everything that these Satanists do is to defy God. So every law that God has put in place, they go the opposite way. But not only do they do these things in secret in their own personal lives, they want to indoctrinate the world with this type of behavior. They want to not only normalize it, they want it to be accepted and practiced. Okay? When Satanists are indoctrinated in Satanism, they go through satanic baptisms. They break the Ten Commandments. And people are like, that's not, oh yeah. The Satanists, of course, will deny it. Well, how can they admit to it? When they're talking about thou shalt not kill, and they can admit to that, admit to a crime? Of course not. But that's what they do. They break the Ten Commandments as part of the satanic baptism. And on top of all that, many of the other commandments that God has, they do the opposite, and they break those. And now they want to normalize those things. So I'm going to show you a clip from this show on TLC, which is very disturbing. But incestual behavior and incestual relationships are going to be normalized. All of this stuff that you couldn't imagine being normalized will be normalized in this new world order. They will start doing things like I'm about to show you in television shows. It plants seeds in the subconscious mind. It normalizes it. That is how we've gotten to this point. When we look at the behavior going on from these extreme liberal, sick people, it's not hard to see how it got to this point if you look at what they've done in television, in the movies, and the TV, everything. Right? Netflix, all over the place, is they've inserted this type of behavior. They've inserted acceptance in this type of behavior, and they planted seeds. The stuff you're seeing with children now has been going on for decades. They have been planting seeds with children being adulted. Okay? Now they're planting seeds with this type of stuff. Get a look at this clip from this TLC show, I Love a Mama's Boy, and tell me this isn't disturbing.
Oh, there's a first for everything.
Okay.
Hi. I love Ethan so much. He's my little cookie monster. So we're here for the mother-son dance.
We want it to be romantic, sexual, sensual, everything.
Like that way?
I can bring it on in. There you go. Yeah, baby. Get that hip over here.
The mother and son dance is very important. Ethan wants to dance to sexual healing.
Grab your mother. I'll grab my mother.
Grab her tight.
Get over here, baby.
Oh my.
Now dance on me. Like grind on me.
Oh my God. All right.
I like the thing when she just walks on me. Feel like a baller. Got this hot MILF on my back.
The flirting really does bother me.
It's got my juices flowing.
And it looks like they're more together than we are, but something I've gotten used to.
And spanky, spanky.
I mean, really? And this is on television. This isn't like a guy who's like, obviously they stereotype this, and they're like, oh, that's some redneck thing in the South, and they try to make this like, we've all heard the stories, right? We've seen Jerry Springer with these types of things. But this is actually how the Satanists operate. Because all of the bloodlines that you see, these rich elite bloodlines, Hollywood, politics, they're all incestuous. They're all people literally having children with their sisters, their brothers. Part of the reason a lot of these guys rename themselves, people are like, oh, actors rename themselves because that name sounds better than having a name like, Gutenberg or something like that. Even though part of the reason they rename themselves also is that people didn't get suspicious of a certain connection to a certain bagel area. But anyway, part of the reason they changed their names is because a lot of these people were in relationships with relatives, and can't have that being known to the public. So now they're going to start breaking the barriers on that. And the Bible, for those who don't know, talks about this many times over. We can start with Leviticus, where the Bible specifically references these types of relationships and this type of behavior. And God forbids this type of disturbing behavior. In Leviticus chapter 18, verses 6 through 18. No one is to approach any close relative to have sexual relations. I am the Lord. Do not dishonor your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with your father's wife. that would dishonor your father. Do not have sexual relations with your sister, either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born in the same home or elsewhere. Do not have sexual relations with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, that would dishonor you. Do not have sexual relations with the daughter of your father's wife, born to your father, she is your sister. Do not have sexual relations with your father's sister, she is your father's close relative. Do not have sexual relations with your mother's sister because she is your mother's close relative. Do not dishonor your father's brother by approaching his wife to have sexual relations, she is your aunt. Do not have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law, she is your son's wife. Do not have sexual relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with your brother's wife, that would dishonor your brother. Do not have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter. Do not have sexual relations with either her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. They are her close relatives. That is wickedness. Do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have sexual relations with her while your wife is living. This is exactly what they want to do. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 30. A man shall not take his father's wife nor discover his father's skirt. And it goes on. It's mentioned many times in Deuteronomy. It's mentioned in Ezekiel. The Bible forbids this. Thus, this will be normalized. That is part of their blueprint of what they're doing. I know a lot of people talk about all the stuff we see right now with the trans, right? And constantly we can go back and we can reference the Bible about men dressing as women and women dressing as men. All of these things you see going on, Sodom and Gomorrah, pretty much being, rebuilt here, pretty much, I guess, around the earth, but here in America especially. So this is part of what they're doing, is they are going to normalize these types of things. And they're going to say, look, if a mom and a son love themselves so much so, what business is it of yours? They'll come out, all they have to do, I've said this with the stuff with the children and nobody believed me. All they have to do is come out and tell you that doctors say that it's normal, that studies show it's this. That's how we got to this point where we're actually having debates about what a woman is. We're having debates about guys cutting off their wangs like it's normal. They'll do the same thing with this type of stuff. They'll do the same thing with kids, with men, grown-ups who are attracted to children. They'll say they're born that way, that we need to allow it to occur as long as it's consensual and the kid's smart enough to consent, they'll tell us. Just like a kid's smart enough to pick their gender, but an 18-year-old isn't smart enough or aware enough to buy a gun. How ironic how dumb these people are and how all their narratives just work to fit their agendas because they know the people who follow them and listen to them, the liberal people, don't think for themselves. They just follow. They're followers. They're natural-born followers, which also they're natural-born losers. So mother and son ready for a sensual dance. You saw that disturbing thing. He spanks his mom. And even if this, a show like this is a come on, where people look at that and they're like, oh, that's scripted. Those two people aren't really doing it, which I'm sure they really are doing it. But even if that's your belief, it's the fact that they're putting this out there. It doesn't matter if the people actually participating in it are really doing that type of stuff. It's planting seeds. It's normalizing this type of behavior. And again, everything that these Satanists do in darkness will be practiced in light. They want to normalize this stuff. So it's this article, People Magazine had that exclusive clip. It takes two to tango, but things get a little uncomfortable when these two are mother and son. In an exclusive sneak peek, the clip that you just saw of a TV show called I Love a Mama's Boy, which shows women navigating their parents' inappropriately close relationships with their moms. Groom-to-be Ethan partners with mom Esther to rehearse their mother-son dance for their upcoming wedding. And of course, they're using sexual healing. What? And the guy's like, he's cracking innuendo. So even if you're like, oh, well, he's just joking around. Who jokes with their mom about that stuff? I mean, really. You know that it's being done on purpose. Otherwise, producers of the show would have been like, this is sick. We're not going to put this out there. Or, this is illegal type of behavior. Look, all those barriers are being broken down. The liberal movement is not what it used to be. It's not Democrat and Republican. It's the sickest, most warped people you could possibly imagine. And a show like this is obviously promoting this type of behavior. I would not be surprised to see this implemented in television series on CBS, NBC, because remember, as long as it's, all they need to do is get the woke people on board, and they'll be on board for any type of sickness. If you think the stuff with the kids is as sick as you can get, so they will not care about a mother and son. They'll be like, well, the kid's 15, 17, the mom's 40, it's consensual. They don't seem to care about 5-year-olds. They don't care about 6-month-olds. So they're not going to care when this stuff gets promoted and they tell them that science says that this is normal and it's acceptable. And again, this is to go against God's word. That's what all this stuff is about. So that's the TV show. I Love a Mama's Boy. I want to thank everyone here on YouTube for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you all and your families.
Open your eyes.
If you are wondering why everything going on in the world feels so terribly off, then you have come to the right place. A veil has been put over the eyes of humanity. Evil people in high places have been hiding the truth in plain sight and building a false reality on lies and deception for far too long. And now, their time is coming to an end. It's time to fight back, to wake up, and to begin an uprising. Now is a time for judgment.
This is a time for judgment. Welcome to today's show. I wanted to cover this topic a few weeks ago, and obviously I had to go through the runaround of being able to get this content back up. But the TV show Stranger Things, I've covered it many times over. I've covered the reason for the show, which is really just telling you what's happening with CERN, desensitizing people to that, but also there's a large indoctrination with the occult through Dungeons and Dragons, which of course anytime anyone hears that this day and age they laugh it off, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine of growing up in the 80s and Dungeons and Dragons was bad and it was dangerous. These people are all dumbed down. They're answering things and looking at things and saying things the way that they do because that's how they're told to do it, because the media and the mainstream dismiss this stuff just like they did when McMartin occurred in the 80s, and they created the satanic panic, obviously for many reasons to prevent from what is happening kind of today from happening then, because there was a huge movement of people waking up to satanic ritual abuse in this country and around the world, from McMartin to some of the other preschools that were getting caught doing this with children. So that's been going on for a while. Stranger Things has been promoting Dungeons and Dragons, but I have to cover the latest season, this narrative from it, because it's laughable, really is. What you see is them bringing the satanic panic into the spotlight. That's really the theme of the season, where the martyr, the character who gets killed, who goes by the name of Eddie Munson, he's like glorified in the Stranger Things community, and this is like one of the most popular shows there is. So everybody, like, you know, you look at all the comments, everyone's like, oh, I'm so touched by him, he was such a good person, because he's the victim in the show. And remember, these evil, wicked people always play the victim. If you're looking for these specific groups who are wicked and evil, they will always defend themselves by playing a victim. They will never address anything that's asked of them. This has to do with bagels, this has to do with LG, this has to do with Satan, the satanic temples and all these satanic organizations, the Freemasons too. They make them out to be victims, like, oh, they're not doing anything, they're good, outstanding citizens, they give to charity like the Shriners, and the suckers believe all this stuff. They always have to play the victim. So Eddie Munson is the victim in the show because he's the target for the murders that occur, which occur by the demon in the, you know, they're trying to bring over, or the demon that's on the other side in the Upside Down. So stay with me if you don't understand, you haven't seen the show. So Eddie Munson gets framed like, oh my gosh, it's this guy who plays Dungeons and Dragons and he's a Satanist, right? So that's his whole character. He has a club, the Hellfire Club, and oh, and everybody loves him. And you know, Netflix is even promoting like all this stuff with Metallica wearing his shirts and talking about him, and people taking their cornfields and you know, whatever you want to call it, with their wasting time, really is what you call a waste of life and embarrassing humanity, but making a giant, you know, image of him, moral of him in their cornfield, this type of garbage. And then the villain in the show happens to be somebody who I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not very known. I know that you guys who listen like appreciate the content, so I'm not going to actually act like they watched my channel and we're like, let's base it on this guy. They obviously took it from you know, what they try to perceive and push a Christian to act as. But if I guarantee you, people who watch the show who have seen my channel and hate me, we're like, this is just like Call for an Uprising. The villain in the series is a jock who is a Christian who starts blaming satanic cults for what's going on. And in reality, that is actually what's going on in the show. It's the occult. I mean, it's not, you know, it's demons from the other side, but this has to do with God and the devil. And of course, they just kind of make it a joke. But here are the two things. Here's the one character. Look how they push and mock the satanic panic, because this is how they're conditioning people to think. And then look how they portray the Christian character as the villain, who really should be the good character. And remember, the Bible tells us this: good will be evil and evil will be good. And in this inverted world, that's exactly what's occurring. Take a look at the characters.
Dungeons and Dragons.
First regarded as a harmless game of make-believe, now has both parents and psychologists concerned, saying it promotes satanic worship, ritual sacrifice.
Want something freaky?
If I may interject, gentlemen.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I can't bear to listen to any more excuses and lies. Last night I saw things I can't explain. The police don't want to believe. And things that I don't want to believe myself. And I've come to accept an awful truth. These murders are ritualistic sacrifices. We've all heard about how satanic cults are spreading to our country. And Eddie Munson, he's the leader of one of these cults. They call themselves Hellfire.
The Hellfire isn't a cult, it's a club for nerds.
A club, a harmless club. That's what they want you to think. It's a lie. A lie designed to conceal the truth. I came overcome with this feeling of hopelessness. Then I remembered Romans 12:21. Not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. It's in this room, right here, right now, to ask for your help, to join me in this fight. Let us cast out this evil and save Hawkins.
So you have these two characters from complete sides of the spectrum. Just the difference between now and in the past is that these wicked characters, even though the character Eddie Munson doesn't really do anything, he just plays Dungeons and Dragons, they want to make themselves out to be people who don't do anything wrong. They're good people, they're caring people, and then these Christians are horrible bigots. They hate on everybody that doesn't agree with them, that kind of stuff that they do in today's world. And this really is huge. The reason I'm covering this is because it's huge, because a show like this, which reaches so many people, this pencils stereotypes into their head. It just ingrains stereotypes, which is how this whole thing is going down right now, is via stereotypes. People don't sit back and realize all this stuff with racism, sexism, this doesn't occur in people's everyday lives. And if it does, it's because of social engineering. That's what it comes from. All these stereotypes about black people, white people, Chinese people, this all comes from the media. It comes from what they put in TV shows. It comes from the stuff that they constantly tell us that they say is happening that isn't happening. And they beat it into people's heads, thus creating these conflicts between humanity. And the more conflict there is amongst the regular civilians, then there will never be conflict, and people actually will never really realize who is doing all this stuff and go after them. So this is another way for them to do that, which is to put these stereotypes in place where the Christian is somebody like me. So somebody, I'm sure, will stumble upon my channel who has never heard my channel and seen Stranger Things and be like, oh, this guy sounds just like the guy from Stranger Things. And that's all they'll ever think of me. They won't know anything about what I expose. They won't know about mind control. They won't know that they're under mind control. They won't know that Stranger Things is really, that's what they're doing. And this is a way to bring satanic panic back to the forefront. Now, when Pizzagate happened, I obviously covered all of this stuff with the satanic panic because it came back. They started bringing the satanic panic back in 2016. Bringing up the old cases that I've exposed many times over the years from 2016 to right now. They started bringing back up these things like the West Memphis 3, like McMartin. Because while it was a topic, they wanted to say, look, all these people were innocent. These Christians were just doing this then, and now they're doing it again. Oh, I wonder why. These people who are now in control were getting run out of every country they were in. They were being, well, let's be realistic here, burned at the stake for doing the things that they do. And it wasn't just because they try to make it seem like, oh, that happened because Christians didn't agree with their ideologies. No. It happened because they were performing witchcraft and sorcery. And what they've done is they've indoctrinated our society with this stuff through every single movie, from Disney itself with the Magic Kingdom all the way down, you name it, to Stranger Things, in between with Cinderella, the magic slipper, it's magic. So people hear this stuff and they just think magic means wonderful times because they're all things they remember from their childhood. They don't realize they've been indoctrinated. And they don't realize that magic and the core of magic revolves around rituals and ritual sacrifice, and that these people who are indoctrinating everyone with magic are preparing people to live as they live, to accept Satan as their god. And these people already are without even realizing it, doing that. These sacrifices that occur to make magic so powerful in the way that it is, and that they're obsessed with, go back to teachings like Aleister Crowley and et cetera, that I've covered before. And what do they teach in that? They teach about human sacrifice. The Bible talks about this. They talk about sacrifice of children. The Bible talks about this. Okay, so that's why they were constantly being run out. Not because they didn't agree with, we don't agree with them. Now, Christians weren't doing that. They were doing that because these people were wicked and evil. And then, when the industrial age started, not the industrial revolution here, the industrial age began, and everybody started getting handed things like, oh, you could work at the grocery store and bag groceries, but you could be a homeowner, and everybody was living the quote-unquote American dream. They were completely distracted as they started building this out. And they built it out. With Disney and all these other things, they put little nuances into everything that were about Satan and magic, and people were completely distracted and completely blind. Now, they're beyond completely blind. They're brain dead at this point. And people like me continue to beat a drum on it, and it's like, I don't know how people don't see the censorship and things like that, why they don't want this stuff out there. They're like, they don't want you out there, Cole, because you're hateful and mean. No, they don't want it out there because, they want you, the things they want out there are things that keep you in the left, right. The things they want out there are things that don't expose the occult. And it's not just Freemasonry, it's Satanism. And these shows, what they do is they don't only promote it, because more and more people, by watching the show, started playing Dungeons and Dragons. There's like all these videos on YouTube of celebrities playing Dungeons and Dragons, which of course is done on purpose. They film it because they want people to watch and be like, oh, did you know that Vince Vaughn plays Dungeons and Dragons? I should play Dungeons. It's so cool to play. Look, when people like me and you were growing up, obviously it was a dork thing, but I didn't care what anybody did. They played Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't really know what it was. Once I woke up, I spoke and I read many books, and I spoke to many people who were deep into the occult. And these are people who came out of the occult. And then, I had conversations with them, just seeing what in the world happened. When I first woke up, why would you ever be in this? Why would you ever do? They didn't really have much of a clue, and they obviously came from broken homes and had ritual abuse was done to them. But Dungeons and Dragons was always used in the occult as a gateway to get them in. So they would get kids to play that, and then it wouldn't be enough after time. They'd be like, you want to try real Dungeons and Dragons? That's the point. I mean, you're not just going to grab somebody off the streets and be like, you want a ritual sacrifice? No, they start toying around with magic. They start spell casting. They get them used to it. They get them indoctrinated with it. They just start, seeing things. They take them places where they meet more people who are into the same thing, and they start showing them more and more and more. And that's how it goes. So this show has brought Dungeons and Dragons back for a reason, because they want to start indoctrinating. Well, they are indoctrinating people again using that tool. They don't need to create, more and more things. They just need to popularize the things that have already worked for them. And Dungeons and Dragons has always worked as a gateway for them. So what did they do? They made a show that people like. It's catchy. Obviously, I've covered it. I've watched it. I see why people like it because of the music and things like that. And then they get them into that sort of thing. And then they put characters in like this on the most popular show that there is right now, probably. Why? Well, why do you think? Because they build these things into people's subconscious minds. The Christian, just like I said, they'll hear someone like me, and their mind will, without them even realizing it, automatically connect that character to me. And anyone who talks about Satanism, they'll say, oh, that's crazy satanic panic, just like they did in the 80s. They need to do it again now because so many people are starting to see what's actually happening because they're coming out of the shadows. But they want to do this transition into, normalizing the occult without, coming out and literally like eating children in front of your face. They want to just normalize it, and that's what they've been doing with the media. Normalizing things and practices, right? Now, I've been covering for years, normalizing children playing the roles of adults. That's to get that pushed across. They've normalized things with animals and human beings over the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. All of the stuff the occult practices gets normalized. Even the smallest things that might seem like the smallest things in the Bible. They twist those things, and then they bring them into society, and they get people to act on those things that they're not supposed to act upon. They normalize it, and then people start digesting it, not realizing what they're even a part of. They get desensitized to it. And it just continues like a steamroller that's going at 1 mile per hour. If that. It's just a slow transition into it. Like I always say, if they ever do anything and they come out and they shock you, it wouldn't work. Because people go, whoa, wait a minute, what? So they beat into your heads, like I've covered in the, so many times at the Satanic Temple or whatever they're called. they would do certain things, and people would be like, oh, they're putting the Baphomet out in city in front of, next to the commandments and things like that. And they begin desensitizing you. Now they still do it, and people are desensitized. They're not in an uproar about it anymore. Now, again, I've said the reason that they do that, which is, of course, to remove any Christian monuments or anything from public grounds because they want to remove Christianity. That's the purpose of their existence. That's why the CIA funds them. But anyway, back to Stranger Things. So these are the things that they're doing, and why? They're doing it on a show like this, a show that talks about, the show is all based around CERN, it's based around witchcraft and sorcery, it's based around MK Ultra. It's amazing that people still think all this stuff's a conspiracy, but the mind control tactics that they use is they fictionalize the truth, and then the stuff on the TV is just all make-believe. All the stuff, the wars and the things, it's all just a make-believe. The presidents and the prime ministers, they're all puppet actors. They have no power. They stand there speaking, doing things to play on your emotions, like Biden and all the stuff that he does, falling downstairs, falling upstairs, all done on purpose. All done on purpose, but people buy into that. And then when they see stuff like this, they're like, well, I watch it to relax. Of course, people watch these shows, they relax, they get into the show, and they don't realize that they're being told, and they're being desensitized to what's really occurring, and they'll never, ever believe it, unless they can pull themselves out of it, and most people can't. So you have Eddie Munson, the worshipped character. Now you have Metallica, like I said, you have all these fans that are crazed. I read some of the comment sections below these clips, and it's people are like, I cried when he died. I mean, it's really, I don't really know if somebody actually did cry. I would normally say, oh, they're just being, over the top or being sarcastic. But no, the way society is now, I mean, these people live through these characters and live through these shows, but still thinking that what's going on in these shows is fiction. They're being engineered to feel a certain way. So that's why it was important for them to put these stereotypical characters into this show. And it doesn't surprise me one bit. I thank everyone for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families. If you're hearing this video and this voice, it may sound very familiar, but don't be confused or be confused. It is not a ghost from YouTube's past. It is not somebody who has laid down and taken the censorship. It's a new YouTube channel. It's a new YouTube channel, and as you can tell from the title of the video, it is a time for judgment. Now, I know a lot of people will be fussy about what I decide to call the channel and what was I going to call and what am I going to do as a new YouTuber and all. Of course, thanks again for being here, everybody. But for the time being, it's good to have another with a different name. Now, some might say, hey, I know who you are. Well, you could just listen to the channel and make the assumptions if you want to make it, but there's no link whatsoever to any other channels. Every way you look at it, every single way. So, like I said before, it's going to take more than something like that to silence this voice. I'm a voice, like many out there, a voice who wants to be heard, and also a voice that people want to hear, unlike the voices that get pushed onto us. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody who is here. The channel is now going to be called A Time for Judgment. Now, I took that name from scripture, from 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 16 through 17. But if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but glorify God that you bear that name. For it is time for judgment to begin with the family of God, and if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who disobey the gospel of God? So that is where the name comes from. For those of you who get sentimental about all the other things and the names and the old versus what's new, I am not a brand. This isn't like, I'm a guy with a voice and what matters is the content that I get out there. So I know people, I like the old intro. Well, it's just new things. It doesn't mean that anything is different. And this is because this is what the world has come to, not because I want to do this. In fact, those of you who might know me, who listen, or know me on a deeper level, maybe I've had a conversation with you along the way here on my journey on YouTube. Maybe you're somebody I knew growing up, I don't know. But I don't like having to do this. I don't like wasting my time. It's one of my top pet peeves, if not my top, wasting my time. And by that I mean anything that is a task that is pointless. And this, having to do things like this, is obviously a pointless task. But again, I'm a new YouTuber, by the way. But having to spend the time, think about this stuff, and waste time. Now, some will say, well, you didn't have to do that. Well, if I just sit pumping out content that new people aren't going to see, then there's no point in me doing this. And I had some people who were like, that's ridiculous. Just make the content. Well, it's easy for you to say. I don't know how you provide for yourself or your family and how you eat and all those things. And at the same time, I don't know what you do with your hours in the day. And it's none of my business, just like my hours in my day are nobody else's business but mine, even though Big Brother tends to think it's their business. Little do they know it's not, and it's never gonna be. I felt compelled to do this. I was not going to be stabbed at, poked at. I've eluded this entire nonsense for years, and I'll continue to elude it. And you can like me, you can hate me, you can call me a shill. I don't care. I don't care. If people want to listen to the content, stay here and listen. If you don't, you don't. The point is that I hope new people will find it. That's why I had to come up with something a little catchy. I wanted to keep something along the lines of, my cool new logo. Well, I thought maybe I'd do a pyramid and show it bleeding blood out of the eye because it's suffering and it's in pain, because that's what's going to eventually happen to these demons. And again, I read the scripture, and that is the reason I chose this name. So the good news is that the channel is ready to go. As you saw in my gaming videos, my grasshopper video, very popular on YouTube. So they approved the channel, which means new people can find the channel for now while I'm a partner with YouTube because we're buddies. And for the time being, this is the route that I'm going to go. Now, from here on out, it's all about the content. It's not about me. This video really isn't about me, but I wanted to make sure people knew, because some people obviously subscribe and they're like, I don't know what this is. I see some games and things like that. And that's because I'm a new YouTuber and I'm just trying things out, playing some Sega CD games. And by the way, for those people out there, some people commented, they're like, where did you find it? It's just literally, I found on YouTube videos, like people doing entire walkthroughs of these old Sega CD games. I never played these games actually, and then I just commentated over what was happening. I didn't have a remote control video game in front of me. I was just watching it like you were watching it and just talking, just saying stuff for 15 minutes pretty much. So no, I was not gaming. You get the point. So the content going forward, I'm feeling like I want to talk more about things that interest me, not that video games and grasshoppers don't, but things that interest me that might help people open their eyes to what's going on. So I have a new intro coming out. That should be tomorrow or the next day, and then I have a ton of content coming out. Now, in the meantime, since then I've been posting exclusively somewhere else, but I can't say where. It's a website that allowed me to post, and I won't say it here, but I will let you know that there has been so much going on, and there's so much more to cover. So I will be here covering it. I hope you like the new name. I hope it, I know that, nobody likes change. I mean, that's just the thing in life. Like, that's why when you have to do something you've never done, of course you're intimidated by it, right? You ever fired a gun, someone hands you a gun, and they're like, shoot the gun. You're like, I don't want to touch the gun. I don't even know what it's going to blow my leg off. But if you're experienced with it, then you're like, it's not a big deal, right? If I handed you an axe and I said, you got to chop wood, you'd be like, whoa, what? You never touched an axe before, right? So it's different comparison. But, it's a new name, and everyone's used to the other one. And I get it, but just look at it the way I'm looking at it. If anyone should be upset, it's me, right? Having to do all this and having, a channel that have 500,000 subs in a year, right, and would probably have 10 million. I don't think twice about it. I just want my channel to be left alone, and I just want to be able to talk about the topics that I want to talk about. And of course, I would have preferred to go that route, but if I'm not upset to the point where I would quit and I would sue, or which of course I wouldn't win because they own the courts, then you shouldn't be either, right? Because I could sit here all day and say, how many channels have I made that have had 100,000 subs, right? Who cares? It's not about the logo, the branding. It's about the message and the voice. And hopefully these videos help wake people up. And I know from reading the comments that it has helped a lot of people. And that's why I continue to do it. But again, I didn't want to continue on channels. All those channels got hit. They're still there. Some of them have the content wiped off because they just kept removing videos. Some don't. So, they'll be there. But if I can't reach new people, I don't know what the point is. And if you're not in if you're not monetizing in the partner program, you don't reach new people. They aren't going to, let you trickle out or anything like that. They suppress it. That's what they continue to do with all my channels. That's why I kept making new ones, and that's why new people kept finding. So anyway, I'm talking about just, I'm obviously going to have to delete this video at some point because of some of the stuff I'm saying, because I went off track, because I'm a new YouTuber, remember? And I'm excited to be here. I can't believe that so many people came over and watched the videos. And again, joking aside, I'm very grateful for everybody who did that. I know how annoying it is for everybody out there to have to do. I am very humble, despite what some people say. So just the fact that it is annoying. I've heard people and they're like, all they gotta do is click the subscribe. I know, but at the same time, it's like, do they though? They expect you to kind of come back. And so I get it. I hate having to ask, but at the same time, it's like, I didn't sign up to do this to have to self-promote myself and be like, go there, follow this link. It's super annoying. So I appreciate it greatly that people even though it might have taken 5 seconds, took the time to be here. And I ask you, you might see comments on other videos and stuff, and we're looking for me, and like, where is he? Where is he? Even on my old channels, because I don't have time to go through the comments on the old channels. I have too many old channels. If you go over there and you see somebody's like, what happened to this guy? You can maybe let him know where I am. And again, now I have to delete this video in the next 48 hours, but by that point, everyone will probably have seen it, and we'll be moving on to important content. Lots of stuff in the music videos still to cover, and people are like, that's not important. Oh yeah, it is. It is, because the zombies out there who have taken something in their body, well, they're telling you what's going to continue to happen to you as you do it. And of course, there's so many other things, which I've covered on the website, which there are some videos maybe I will upload here, discreet, I don't know. I'll figure that stuff out in the future. But I wanted to let you know the new name. I hope, it's acceptable and it's okay. It is not called a time for judgment, because I am going to sit here judging people, because I know people are like, well, Christian, you're not supposed to judge. I'm not sitting here judging people. I'm using the scripture, and I'm saying, judgment begins with the family of God, like the scripture says. And if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who disobey the gospel of God? And on this channel, I'm not just exposing those who disobey the gospel of God, because again, we're all sinners. I'm talking about people who are indoctrinating people with Satanism, and people who are not, sometimes I say, like, well, these people are beyond saving, and people get mad at me. Well, I don't think anyone's beyond saving, of course, because anybody can come back and come to our Father or be born again, obviously. But I don't pray for the devil. And if you're at night, you're up at night and you're like, Satan, I'm going to pray for you. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you're too far in the lollipop land, okay? Because God and the devil do not like one another. I don't think that's going to change if you've read the Bible and the outcome, which we already know in advance. So there are a lot of people who literally are possessed and are beyond saving at this point. Like, I'd say like the Rothschilds, you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm not sitting here with this name to pass judgment. I thought it was a decent name, a good name of all the ones I went through, and I appreciate this a lot that people said there were a lot of good ones. I obviously wanted to pick one that stuck with me, and this verse stuck with me again, that's in 1 Peter chapter 4, or excuse me, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 17. I always say that, and people are like, it's not 2, it's second, or it's 1. I mean, those are the people, right, who will, anyway, the same people, it's like, they point out your sin, and then they go home and commit the same sin, and then, have no self-awareness and don't realize they're doing the same thing. So, anyway, that's the verse, and I thank everyone for being here. And from now on, this channel, and again, the other ones, they still might be used. Never say never, and of course, with this nonsense going on here, I'm sure at some point I will get one of them functioning again. It's just going to take time. So for now, this is where I'm going to be. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a time for judgment. Thank you for being here, everybody. God bless you and your families.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. As if technology wasn't getting bad enough, as if the Alexa wasn't just a device to spy and listen on you from the NSA, which is exactly what it is we live amongst people who actually think that the creation of this device and the marketing to get it inside of your home had everything to do with, could you play my favorite song? Could you turn my lights off? Because I can't get my fat rear end off the couch to do it myself. Oh, this is great. What a great invention. No. People were willingly putting devices in their home that would listen and monitor them. And of course, that does count with your cell phones as well. And on top of that, we obviously saw all these stories come out about Alexa stopping crime, pre-crime, because the Alexa was listening and then was sending the information to the NSA, and people were not alarmed. And then on top of that, when all this stuff went the way that I was talking about it going, we had an outbreak where people imprisoned themselves in their home, and their home thus was a prison cell, which is the way it's going to continue to go. And people have the type of technology in there where not only are people locking themselves up in their home and quarantining themselves, they're allowing the government to sit there with them and listen in on whatever they're talking about. in case, of course, there's some type of uprising and people actually want to do something about the tyrannical governments that are now showing their faces around the world. Well, now we have this from Alexa. Alexa will now be creating a new variation, a new voice assistant that will allow you to speak to loved ones, including deceased loved ones. That's right. So you're laying on your couch and you want to talk to your dead mother? Yeah, the Alexa will listen in if it hasn't already. You could play a clip of your mom talking, maybe from an old video, a home video, or something you recorded on your phone, and the Alexa will mimic your mother. Or will the Alexa just summon spirits?
Amazon's voice assistant known as Alexa could soon be made to mimic any voice, and that's even the voice of someone who is dead. The company is working on a way to have Alexa listen to less than a minute of a voice, and it would then start sounding like that person when responding to your questions or commands. And that means if you have a recording of someone no longer around, you can have Alexa listen and then mimic that voice. There are concerns, however, that hackers could hijack the tech to try and scam someone with the voice that they recognize.
Tony, we'll kick it off with you, baby. I hear your voice, Nick. I hear the songs being sung here, and I'm talking about voices because my talk at the table is about a controversial new feature from Amazon. I'm not going to tell you exactly why it's controversial. I just want to have you listen to a little kid ask Alexa to get a story read by Grandma. This was at a conference just recently. Take a look, and then I'll explain. Okay.
Alexa, can Grandma finish reading me The Wizard of Oz?
Okay. But how about my courage? Asked the lion anxiously. You have plenty of courage, I am sure, answered Oz.
This experience. Grandma in this scenario is no longer with us. Alexa, with this new technology, you see why it's controversial. Yeah,
I don't like it.
Alexa is creating anyone's voice.
So you can have your dead relative engage. I don't like it.
Why don't you like it?
I don't like it.
If you're a child and you're missing your relative and you want to hear that voice, why not?
That creeps me out. That doesn't creep you out? That creeps me out. When my mom died, I saved the answering machine. Back in the day, we had answering machines.
Yeah.
So I saved the answering machine where she said, "This is Peggy King." You reached out to that.
A lot of people do that.
I saved it.
Yeah.
And then I let it go. But to have her voice reading like she's there is creepy to me.
But some people don't want to let that go. Some people want that to last
I
forever.
understand that. I think a recording.
I'm seeing both sides.
Okay, well, I want to see your side. Do you like this idea?
If I could hear the voice of a grandparent that I never had a chance to meet, like a couple of my grandparents, I would love to hear them talk to me.
I don't like it.
But it's a creation. It's an AI creation.
It's artificial intelligence. You take the voice and then they figure out a way to allow Alexa to mimic that.
I'll bet people agree with both of us, Nate.
Yeah.
That they do.
So the latest iteration of Amazon's Alexa voice assistant could sound eerily
Still
familiar.
recording,
The company
heck
announced on
yeah.
Wednesday during its annual conference.
Alright
which
guys, if
focuses
you're
on
still
artificial
listening, I just got in the
intelligence
car,
innovation that's working on
and
an update to
it's
its
very
Alexa that
likely if
would
I
allow the
upload a
technology
video
to
like this,
mimic
it'll
any
get
voice,
stricken.
even a deceased
It'll get shut
family
down,
member. So,
everything
on top
dies
of
on
the
here.
fact that clearly,
So I think I'm going to cut the video here and then restart this video on a new one. Thank you guys for watching, love you guys, have a good day, bye.